how do you navigate the potential desire, because I know I face it too in my own work, to be liked on set versus in this moment, I really just need to direct and I need to rally and I need to push us forward.
Communicating well is such a hard thing, just as a human person, like just as a person who interacts with people, it's hard. So in the filmmaking sense, I feel like it's extra challenging. One tip is just get yourself a really great assistant director who is willing to be the asshole, because I've done it. I've been the asshole so many times. I had an amazing assistant director who was down to be like the mom, you know, like it's really helpful when you can just focus on the craft and then there's someone else trying to get people in check when they're out of check, or not out of check, but when the vibe needs to kind of be a little more focused.
So yeah, there's a usually a good set is when there's obviously like a great atmosphere and everyone's getting along, but it can get really too comfortable. And as a director, I'm like quite just a goofy person, not even as a director, but as a person. And on set, I noticed that because I also had friends like you guys working on my set as, just scripts and stuff, and people were joking around and being too loud. And in that moment, like I had to snap at them and like kind of, get my director hat on and just yell like, guys, like we gotta get back to work. And if you're not being an asshole the rest of the time, I think it's okay to just call them out in the moment and people will respect that. So it's a hard balance to have for a set to be comfortable and easy breezy, but also being really productive and getting the results you want.
Personally, for me, the way that I find I'm able to appreciate the process is just, it's all about like the small wins. So like a few weeks ago, I was talking to my music supervisor and we've been working nonstop, and she just told me that like after weeks and weeks of speaking with this publishing company, we finally got the rights to this one song. And it was just like in that moment where I was like, all right, we did the one thing we set out to do and get this song. And like it's been hard work to get here, but like you just need to take a second to be grateful and present to what you are able to achieve.
Always celebrate the small wins, for sure.
Always.
So first question, kind of a two-part question. Are you more comfortable with technical talk, lenses, camera, rigs, or speaking to actors? And then, well, I'll let you answer that first, and then I'll dive into the second question.
Actually don't, I love cameras and I love like things like that, but my mind just I have so many brain farts when I'm talking about those things, so I don't know any technical talk. And so yeah, I think I'm much more comfortable talking to actors actually.
Yeah, I'm the contrary. I find actors quite scary, so I prefer talking to the cameras. But no, I think I consider myself both a DP and a director, so I'm quite comfortable with all the jargon and stuff. But like, having a pretty movie and having all the cool stuff around it, but like shitty acting in your movie just destroys your whole movie. So, I find character work like way harder to master than lighting techniques or cranes and all that stuff.
For me, I feel like it's a gear switch, because I also I shot way more than I directed, and then I did like my intermediate film at NYU, and that was like my first directorial experience. And yeah, I feel like I totally just switch, and this is like bringing a bit of zodiac stuff into it, but I'm such a Cancer. Like I'm very much like a sensitive, emotional person, sensitive to other people's feelings too. I'm very observant, but I'm also like a double Virgo on my other side. And I feel like when I'm shooting, my Virgo really comes out, and I'm pretty focused, and like I have all the technical stuff down. But then when I'm directing, it's like my Cancer, where I'm like, I speak more from the heart than from like the head, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I love that. So given that the technical or the gear switches, if we mirror Anita's terminology, I really like that. How, when you're looking for a certain performance and you're just not quite getting it, how do you re-engage with an actor and really you know, draw a map to that special place?
I think one thing that is easy to forget is that we all have the ability to take 5. I think sometimes we are so, you know, in it, and obviously there's a time crunch, but I think sometimes like taking a step back and letting things breathe and then coming back, I think that's really, really useful. And it's also, I mean, it's hard because language is everything. And like, you know, in film school, you're told like, don't result direct. If you result direct, you are not going to be a good director. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's basically like explaining to your actor what the end product is. So it's like telling your actor, okay, here now you're supposed to be sad, but it's just it doesn't give you the right results because your understanding of sad could be very different than your actor's understanding. So instead, you have to kind of paint a picture of like their mind space and what the actor is feeling and what their intention and their desire and want is for that specific moment. But yeah, I think mine would just be like taking a second and then regrouping.
Yeah, I agree with that because when the actor can do the scene in rehearsal, but then once you're on set and all the lights are ready, the cameras are rolling, they just can't get the scene right. I think that means there's something about the environment that they can't control or we can't control, and something's wrong about the environment. And I agree about taking 5 and asking the actor maybe, you know, what's wrong, what's not working for you, or because you shouldn't result direct first of all, and don't try to manipulate the actor into thinking they can do the scene right away because that's just not going to work.
I actually have a question for you all, going off of that. Like, have you ever been in a situation where you have to balance that versus like you're in a time crunch with like location, and then yeah, like balancing that versus like you have a location constraint? So and how have you like managed that?
I actually did in my short film Fly Struck. In the last scene, it's supposed to be the most emotional scene and it's the peak of the film, but we're shooting in the streets. We did not get a street shooting permit, but we were only hand holding everything, so it should be fine, right? No, the cops show up. We have to get the shot in 5 minutes. There's a kid actor. He's supposed to cry. He's not crying. So we, in that moment, like as a director, I felt like I really need to make, you know, a really quick decision of what to do. And that's when I turned into changing the whole scene in my head. Like I had to visualize the whole storyboard in my head and see in what amount of shot can I get this the most effective way, and also get the child actor to perform right. So it's really tricky and it's very stressful, but there's always a way around it. Yeah.
That's why I think that it's so important for like your key crew and the director to have I don't even know, like almost like an unspoken understanding of like the importance of every like every because every crew member is contributing their time and inevitably like almost in a way their vision too, like they're bringing to life your vision. And I think there should just be such transparency prior to shooting about what you're going to shoot. I'm just thinking about one time when we were on Emily's set actually, and we kind of same thing. We didn't have a permit to shoot on these train tracks. They were inactive though, so so it was safe and all. But I just remember like a representative, I guess, from the, I don't even know from where, someone official came up and basically was like, you guys have to stop shooting. But I don't, there was no communication amongst any of us, but we kind of all looked at each other and I just turned the camera on and like, I just continued to shoot at that moment because I don't know, it's just like, I knew that we had to get the shot, like the time was running out.
One take, that one take, and we used it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like we're talking about location a lot, so I want to dive deeper into that. What is your relationship to location? Do you almost view it as a secondary character?
Totally. Yes. For me, location is usually the way that I start writing or thinking up my films. It's, I mean, in the film that Nia's talking about, Blueberry Island, that we shot in September, that was entirely the third character. Like, it's hard to describe. The film would not be what it is without this location. And yeah, it's just, location is an energy. It's a mind space, and it makes up so much of how we feel internally. I mean, even to think about this quarantine, how we've all kind of been locked inside. I've been up at my country house, and just the fact that I've been able to like be with nature has like changed so much for my mindset. So location and character are like the most important things in my mind.
I agree, but the cool thing about location in film is that it's also, it can be completely makeshift. You can trick a whole audience, making them think that a character is in one place and not the other. Everything's done through like art directors and production design. So location is really cool, but I think it's not crucial, and it can be built.
Yeah, I had like the in between of both, like with my experience, because I was doing like a I guess it's like a period piece because my film was set in the 80s, and like location was sort of important. Well, it was very important actually, because like it was part of it was very relevant to the stories, but we had to, it was just like a very cool dynamic that we had with like the art team and everything, because we not only did we have to art everything for a specific time period, we had to kind of create locations within the spaces that we had, like an apartment. It was already very small, but we had to even make it smaller. So the art and set design team just had to completely condense the space and manipulate that space to make it like a completely different setting. But like I did spend like a lot of time to just like make sure that the elements in that space were what I, not necessarily what I wanted them, what I envisioned them to be, but were close to what I wanted them to portray.
Sam spoke a little bit before about makeshift, and I want to pick that up and run with it. I want to talk about indie films and their place in the industry, but also working with a shoestring budget, especially being our age and in our positionality.
Oh man, like we're just so precious in college. Like we're too precious with our work. And if there's anything that I've learned in the last like few years is that if I am too precious with my work right now, I'm not gonna make the mistakes that I need to be making to then be learning from them. And I need to be making stuff that isn't like the best thing I've ever made. Like I need it to make these things because that's the only way I'm gonna get to something that's like actually bigger, and I will be given a bigger budget. And going into like my thesis was like in the moment my everything, and I put, as Emily, you were saying, like literally all my eggs in the basket, and I'm so proud of it. And it's every project you make is like your little baby that you nurture and then you like birth into this world. And like you can't, it's like you can't dislike your children. You're gonna love them in different ways. They serve like whatever purpose in terms of film. But coming off of that project where I like put in my own savings, like had a little bit of help, like obviously from school we have like the insurance, equipment and all, but then going into this music video where I had to figure out how to set up like an entire car rig, like shoot these drag races on $500. And I remember I was on a plane coming back New Year's Day, like January 1st, and I was in the plane and I was like, holy crap, like how am I gonna do this? I'm freaking out. I don't have the means to make this, like looking at these other directors that now have like a lot of money, comparing myself to them. And by some stroke of luck, I had this Maya Deren book that I bought like a long time ago at this bookstore, and I worship her. I think she's given so much to the filmmaking world that I think, I mean, if people don't know that are watching, Maya Deren was like one of the pioneers of experimental filmmaking. And her book opens up with saying that what young filmmakers, what young creatives have is the the drive and the passion that industry people lose along the way, like to get to where they are. Like it's like, she used a word, it was like, it's amateur. It's like amateur. It's like you're doing it for the love of the craft. You're doing it for the love of what you're putting out. And so that really stuck with me. And I just rearranged how I'm going to approach this video. And yeah, literally suction cup, shitty rig, put it on the car, went at like half the normal speed, you know, like you speed it up in post, like it works. And it, you know, we made it happen. And yeah, that's my tidbit.
You mentioned affording yourself mistakes, being a young filmmaker, you know, not being precious with your work, which I think that is an important avenue to explore too. Can you speak to, as artists, our relationship to failure, and is failure a rite of passage? Do we have the right to fail? Like,
right off the bat, I'll let you guys talk too. I've been having that same feeling too, Nina, of wait, why do I make this one project mean everything? I think it's so hard being an artist because your ego is so tied up in what you make. But like even this past week, like I turned my phone off for the whole week and I was trying so hard to like detach my feeling of worth with what I produce. And I think it's extremely hard to live in New York City, to live in an artist environment and not base your own value off of your creations. But it's so important to know that making bad art is what makes you who you are and what makes you the artist you are. If I'm thinking about my work, part of me is like, damn, I wish I had this sense of desire to be more prolific, to just like make things, move on. But the reason I feel like personally it's so hard to be prolific with filmmaking is just because there are so many pieces and it's extra hard when you want everything to be perfect. So I mean, yeah, what would our art look like if we didn't care so much? But how are you not going to care if when you do care? You know, it's a really hard place to, it's a fine line to walk.
I realized like in the beginning of my filmmaking stages, one out of my 2 projects came out as like really bad. Although, you know, I put my sweat, blood, and tear in it like everyone else did, because it is your baby. And but after realizing that not all the projects I'm going to make are come out like perfect or great, I realized that I can't treat my this one project as my life. Like I can't put everything, I mean, although I do have to put everything into it, I can't just put that much emotions into it, because it is just like it's a process. And you know, different things are going to come along the way, and I'm going to learn things as I go and celebrate those tiny victories. But just expectations are really hard to manage when you're making a movie, just like in general. Yeah.
what are the things that you've been taught that you've moved away from, and why? And what are the things that you've now acquired into your toolbox that really serve you?
There is a level of perfectionism that is taught, and I wish there was more of an emphasis on like, okay, like sure, this project you did wasn't, you know, incredible, but that's good, you know, because that's where the lessons are going to be. And maybe that's something we just need to learn on our own. Like maybe it's really a question of, I mean, it is actually, it really is. It's like no one's going to hold your hand. It would be so nice if someone did, but at the end of the day, it's not. No one's going to.
I think the thing that I'm learning the most is that like every process and every director have their own style and have their own technique and have their own way of working. And in film school especially, we're taught that we have to do things a certain way because the industry does it a certain way. And that's not right. Like if you have money, great, you can do like your own thing, but you can also make your own thing happen if you have a vision and if you have the means to do that. And if you don't, if you just have like you can make that happen with the limitations if you just like eliminate the variables in order to get that. And if the variable is money, for instance, eliminate that variable and see what you can make with that. If the film needs to be made on an iPhone, make that a creative limitation. and just put it out there. And one day, like, you're gonna just be making content that is gonna make your experience, that you're gonna have a portfolio, and yeah.
I also think that the best work is one that breaks away from the formulaic stuff that we're taught. Like it's knowing the basis, but also breaking it.
Yeah, I think it's super important to adapt your film as you go, because they say a movie's made 3 times: one time in when you're writing, one time when you're shooting, and one time in the editing room. But there's just so much more of that movie being changed along the way, and just sticking to a structure just doesn't really work for me. And I think just adapting and going with the flow, seeing where the energy of this movie is going, as long as you have like a really strong vision and a clear idea of what you want to say, maybe, or what you want your audience to feel, then you should be good. But don't expect your movie to ever stay the exact same movie that you had in your head in the first place.
My last question, really quickly, would be, what is the thing that you want to tell the younger generation of directors, whether they know that they're a director or not yet? What would be that one thing you tell them?
Make a ton of mistakes, as we talked about, and I think always write what you know, and tell a story that's personal. Don't try to be someone that you're not.
I think, I mean, there's so many things, there's so many things you could say, but I feel like it's not even just for new filmmakers, just any filmmaker. Just fear will stop you from so much. And it's not that you want to get rid of the fear, it's you just want to be in a position where you can go forward and move with that scared energy and know that it's there to help you and support you. And at the end of the day, like, it's not life or death. Movie making, we really make it seem like it's life or death, but it's really, it's creation and it's evolution, and we need to be open to all that comes with.
Being scared is good, because that means that that you're going into something that you're not prepared for yet, but you're gonna learn so much from it. So always be scared of the next project you're gonna work on.
The one project doesn't define you. Like, I think that's really important. Going as a new filmmaker.
And don't be overwhelmed by the fact that your project is gonna just be out in the world, and it's gonna be this tiny little thing, because it really does matter. Even if it is a tiny little thing, someone is going to see it and may relate to it, and it is special and important no matter what.
100%. Well, that is the end. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for having us. This is super fun.
Yeah, this is
awesome.
wonderful.